We're going to get into automated reports in Inventory Planner today. Again, my name is Jill. Basil's on the line here, so you're going to hear from both of us in walking through this functionality today. On this call, just as a brief overview of what we're going to cover, how to configure a report within Inventory Planner, emailing those reports, automating the emails, and then how to edit those automations and kind of troubleshoot if you're not getting your expected emails. I'm going to turn it over to Basil, who's going to walk us through these new features within Inventory Planner.
Awesome. Thank you, Jill. Let's go ahead and share the screen and dive right in. Perfect. Okay, great. So first and foremost, as many of you know, you can, from our homepage, anytime you can access our demo store on the top right here. So this will be available in anyone's accounts as well. But you're going to notice now under the account button at the bottom left, you'll see a new section. It's called automations. Now this will be a home center for automations. The first and most key automation that we're going to be discussing today is the ability to schedule reports. So these will be reports that can be sent on an automatic cadence to a list of recipients of your choosing. Exciting stuff. I can hear all the applause out there. So there's two ways that you can set up automations. Now, if you were to click into the automations menu from account settings, now also you don't have to remember all of this off the top of your head. First and foremost, I should mention, you can follow along. You'll be able to pull up a lot of information on the bottom right. If you just search for, say, scheduled report, for example, you're going to find a really cohesive article that's going to walk through all of this step by step. There's a video there. I'll explain creating reports, how to find the history of those reports and the emails that it'll send. So you can refer back to this anytime. So have no fear. Now, here in automations, first you're seeing no automations is the default message we're going to get here until you start generating automations. The first automation that you can set up here would be to automate report emails. So this would be one method. You could start from here. You could set up your first email report and then start configuring different reports, adding multiple reports here. You could do it from here. That would be one option. An alternative option, perhaps maybe more common, we'll be seeing. I'll be curious, just seeing from users what we'll see here. But you'll notice on the various reports, replenishment, overstock, KPIs, you'll see that email button now at the bottom. So if you configure a report, you're in replenishment, for example, and you filtered, you want to see things with a certain tag, whatever it might be, or items with this vendor that meet a certain criteria. This vendor with stock that equals 0, whatever it might be, whatever your preset filters are going to be, that's what we're going to use. So if I were to say, okay, here's this vendor, I didn't put one with the tag, and I want to go ahead and email this report. Notice here it is, it's pre-populated. So here's the replenishment report, the warehouse that I had selected. We could make changes to these here if we want to. Under variance is going to change that aggregation. So all of it just aligns back to that report. And if you're wondering where did the report go, see a little eyeball there? So you can go back and preview that report anytime. So it's the same, it's just a two-way street. We can come right back to it as we need to. Or if we made a change, maybe we want to actually see, I don't need to see this vendor. I want to change it. I want to break it down by category. So as you make those changes, if you were to reselect, notice here it is, category report, none of those filters. So it's a very flexible mechanism there. You can also adjust columns. It's the same kind of column structure as you're going to see with the gear icon in the top right. So all of that you can manage it either from the report directly, then press email, or when you're here, you can make changes as you need to. This other button here too, it's an ability to download that file. So it's just like if you're in replenishment and you were to select export, same kind of idea. Now, when you go to email this report, it's effectively doing the same thing. It's exporting this report. Here's a CSV of this report, and then it's going to send an email. So I have it open on my other screen here. So it's like it sends an email. Here's the category report. So they'll be attached as CSV documents. So it's the same kind of idea. So whether you could from here, just download that report if you prefer to do it on a one-time basis. And then similar to our, many of you have probably used our stock orders feature. And when you're in the PO mechanism and you want to email your PO to a vendor, for example, so you may recognize the design there. And it's because it's a similar idea as what you're seeing in here for emails. So just like that, I mean, if we're in replenishment, if we're in a KPI report and then we email, same sort of idea. Here's the from address. We could change it if I want to show that it's coming from, Basil or anything. I can say it's coming from Basil at inventoryplanner.com, for example. And if you do it this way, I think this is the sequence here. If you like, it'll say it's coming from Basil even. I'm going to send it to myself here. Basil at, hey, okay, there we go. We got Monica coming in. So yeah, I'm just setting up a test email here, and we'll see what this looks like. So I'm going to say this is our test email. Now, right now we have that replenishment report, and maybe there's various reports I want to send to my team on some kind of cadence, or a one-time email. Regardless, we can have multiple here. Maybe you want to do a simple KPI report. We're going to also similarly do it by category. We're going to do it in the last 30 days. Something important I want to mention while we're here is you're probably familiar if you've played or poked around a bit in our KPI reports. Or remember, I said we could even access it from here. So if I open up a new tab, here's my KPI report. So in KPIs today, you can come into KPIs. You could select a comparison period. So right now I'm looking at the last 30 days and I want to compare it against the prior 30 days. So these reports currently can be pulled in KPIs. We're still working on the mechanism to add this compare feature in here. So stay tuned over the coming weeks. Right now, because it's not a static report, right? This is consistent. Let's say you're sending this report every week. The last 30 days range is going to be different, and it needs to continue to update and be dynamic. So that's what you're going to notice here. So right now it's just like static. It'll be last 30 days, and then next week it would update for those 30 days. But we'll add that compare to mechanism here, so that it will be just like as if you were pulling this report and exporting it. It'll function similarly, but it's missing right now. So just keep that in mind. So you can have multiple reports here. You can have as many, actually, I'm not sure, it may not be limitless, but you can have numerous reports here. And you can schedule. So this is a very important part of this process. As soon as you schedule the report, it becomes an automation. So you're automating it at that point. If there's no schedule, it's not an automation. It's just a one-time email. As soon as you set up a cadence, I'm going to send this on a weekly basis, every week on Wednesday and Thursday or whatever. I'm just going to stop after once. So yeah, I'm actually doing it as a one time. I'm just going to stop it after once, or we could do it after 5 times. Let us know when the next report would be scheduled. So I'm going to actually let it run for today, right? It's weekly on Wednesday, and I'll run it after X times. And I'm going to say this is a test. This is a test. So this is the body of my email. And then what we can do is we can either send the test email, just see how it works. Was it just a one time? Make sure, maybe we're about to send this to 100 different users or anything. Or we can create the automation. In this case, it's going to do the same sort of thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and create it. Run, so create. All right. So now we can see that this is getting ready the sync is scheduled. You may kind of say, okay, notice this is sending soon. Sometimes when it's about to execute, this is the screen that you're going to see. Now we may very well here, I'm going to grab a screenshot here as well. So we're working on whether we're going to auto refresh this page or anything, but for the meantime, just go ahead and refresh. You're going to notice since that was set to run today, and then I just said run once. So technically it's running, it ran the automation here. And then after it ran for the one time, it ended, it disabled this automation. So it ran that report, and I'm going to just see, we'll see. I'm going to check my email. Let's see, has it shown up over here? Oh, no, looks like it's still kind of running on this one. Okay. But we're going to be able to notice under account automations, we'll be able to check on the automation. Here's the automation we created. Now it's still running this report. I'm not sure why it's particularly large. Could be something with our demo account being funky. But what I'm excited to to see here is once it runs the execution and it gives us a little bit of a summary, what ran, what are the results of this execution. I wonder if it's something funky with our demo store here. Yeah, that is being a little funky, huh? Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna just try this in one of our alternative accounts here. It's running. We should see that it would have run pretty quickly. We don't have too much data in this particular environment, but again, brand new feature, and primarily we've been focused on getting this into live accounts. So this is one of our test accounts here. So I'm just going to do the same exact kind of thing. I'm going to say replenishment by category. We're going to email it. Same kind of thing. Let's do the same exact setup. By category, run a KPI report, etc. Wanted to try this as well. Basil at inventory-planner.com. And if you select it there, it creates it as a new one. I'm going to also just put my email back in here. Same exact thing. Running a test. This is a test. Same idea. Got 2 reports here. We're going to set up a cadence. I'm going to run this. I'm going to run this weekly, and I'm not going to have this stop this time. We'll create it, let this thing go. Okay, so same idea, sending soon. We could refresh the screen. Eventually, we'll probably add the auto refreshing. This one went right away. Okay, so this time we see there were 2 reports that were, here. So we're getting a bit of a summary page. Now there's a details icon here. Basically, when these past emails run, it's referring to each sequence. So if I came back and actually, if I ran it again, let's say we come to the automation, let's say run test email, or if we were to run this automation again at any point, we're just going to see more logs that are going to end up on this automation. We'll see more batches is what we're going to be referring them to, or past emails. And you'll be able to refer to these as well. There's an email section as well. And this is letting us know, like it's sent an email. It's going to give all the details about when that email was sent, to who it was sent to. Apparently, I didn't even put in a to address. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's probably a helpful thing to do. Let's go ahead and actually enter an email here. inventory-planner.com. Okay, so I'm going to select it there. And let's say, okay, well, we fixed it this time. Let's go ahead and send it now. Send it in. Okay, notice it created a separate line. It's like, okay, this time, here's a recipient. So it let us know. So this is a great area for troubleshooting. You might be like, where did the email go? This summary page we're going to be adding in as a concept in general too. It'll help inform the more you're doing like automations. Maybe there's many reports or somebody, what happened with the recipient or something. So this is going to be a good area to be able to come back and say, hey, go back to that automation. I click in, what's going on here. So, okay. Now notice, because settings might change, right? Like maybe the reality is I sent this information and, I forgot the range. I should be looking at the last 30 days. Notice this menu looks a little different now that we set it up as an automation. Since we set up a schedule and we enabled the automation piece of this, it's not just a one-time email. The system understands it's dynamic now. So it's letting us know actually specifically when you're saying last 30 days or whatever it is, which days those are, because those are going to dynamically update. And then we will add that compare to button as well, in case you want to say, hey, look at last 30 days versus prior 30 days. So again, that piece is coming pretty soon. But say we make some adjustments. Okay, this all feels pretty good. And then let's say I'm going to get rid of the replenishment report. I only need the KPI report. I save this in and I run a different email. So notice, okay, it's creating new lines. So these detail icons will show you what the settings were at the time that execution ran. So when I did the prior one, I had that KPI report and the replenishment report. But this last one, I only had the KPI report. So those settings can change. And if you want to be able to refer back to what the settings were at a given time, you'll be able to see that using that details icon. And then for a future run of that automation, the settings at the top are going to give you a sense, what does it look like for the next run that's going to take place. All right, so now let's see, what does the actual report look like that gets sent to the email? Let's say, I like have so many filtering mechanisms in my inbox. So here we go. I found it. We run a lot of tests. So what happened? We got an email. Notice actually, so this is something you can do in reports as well, just a little bit of the secret sauce there. Notice something I did with this automation. You may have noticed how I entered my email. I put my name in quotation and then the email between these brackets, and then I selected it. So I did that for a reason. Notice the actual email that's sent to me came from Basil, because of the way that I figured it. Now, the actual email is coming from our system. If you were to respond to this email, it's going to respond to my address, sure. But it's when you're running that automation, it's going through our automatic system. So it sends as this no reply address, but it'll have the name of the user, whatever I put in there. And then if somebody were to reply, it'll go back to your email address. It'll be correct. Just keep that in mind. So you can actually customize the name that it sends from, if you like, using that strategy. Now that first one, I added a little bit of a body to the email, said, hey, here's a test. Pretty straightforward, right? Here's the attachment of those reports. Just a simple export of those reports, CSV export dump by category. Great, exactly what we wanted. If we want to be able to quickly access that automation to make changes in the future, it's right here in the body of the email. We can click in, took us right back into that automation. And we could just say, okay, I'm going to disable this. I don't want it to run anymore, whatever it might be. So the enabling or disabling is related to the automation. Do you want it to continue running or not? That if I were to say, hey, let's disable that, notice on the main automations page, it's a disabled automation now. So it's not going to continue running from account automations. It's the enabled column is blank. So it's not an active automation anymore, or I could come back and turn it on. Great, I want to get this thing going again. Okay, it's going to start the automation back up. If I were to go back to automations, it's enabled. So make sure you closely check that enabled piece, because that's what's dictating if this is going to actually run or not. When it's enabled, you'll be able to click in. It's not a faded gray. It's upcoming. Here's the date it's going to run. It's on January 26th. That's the next Wednesday that's going to run, and so on. If you want to ad hoc run it at any time, no problem. You would just select that button there. But that's going to be a critical piece. If you're ever just troubleshooting, come back to automations. Check, is it enabled? Is it not? Click in. What's going on with the settings? Who's there as a recipient? Was there a recipient as a result? What were the settings? So we've added a lot of mechanisms in here, so you don't have to, reach out and say, hey, what the heck's going on? A lot of this is going to be at your fingertips. We're presenting these logs to you, trying to make it crystal clear. And even furthermore, you want to understand what's happened. Maybe there's a lot of reports. This has been going on for a year. You run it every single day. So you see also there's automation history at the bottom. This is also really nifty. The way that this is formatted, it's just running through those logs. Here, we created it on January 19th. We set the name, we created it. Here was the user that created it. And then we made some changes, right? So it tried to run the first time, but there was an error because I didn't have a recipient, Oh, okay, bummer. What happened then next, we changed it. We enabled the automation. We added the recipient. So everything, it did sent as expected that next time. So we can trace that history back in here. It's very useful. Whenever you see the purple text, it's delineating. It's letting you know, hey, this actually, it sent an email. So the automation was activated by the schedule. This one didn't actually run. This time, the later one that I ran, it did actually run. So I could click to email. It would go over to account emails as a summary. What email sent? When did they send? This is just like straight logs of the emails that actually sent and some simple information about them, just to help tie that back together. So just as a kind of a review there, whether you're clicking from a report directly and using that email button, or if you're in account under automations and you start it from there, either way, it's the same effect, but it's not an automation until you set up a schedule. As soon as you set up a schedule on a monthly basis, etc., that's when it's going to become an automation. Is once you'll save it, and then it'll default enable that automation, and then it'll run until you disable it or until the criteria ends. That's kind of the key piece, but I see our question box is blowing up here, Jill. So how's it going so far?
Pretty good. We did have a couple of questions about the timing of when these emails get sent. So I got clarification from the dev team that this will run as one of the last steps within your sync, your daily sync. So that means data has already pulled from your connected platforms, reports have recomputed, then the automations will run. So it's going to have updated data for the day. So that was a question from a couple of people that we did have coming in. Sarah asked about being able to automate and email the full inventory view, the prettier version that you can get from the replenishment page. We don't have that yet. It's only the CSV version, but I'll definitely note that as a feature request for us to consider with future improvements as well. So I think
touching on that, just that additional piece there about the timing.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind, this will continue to update and evolve, but as you're creating those automations, I just want to hit back because this is something just through testing this feature that was throwing me off a little bit. And I just want to make sure that it's pretty clear there. So again, if you're running the automation, and I'm just going to do another one as a kind of straightforward test here. Let's say by tag, I'm going to do, sure, whatever, week to date. That's fine. We'll email the report. And let's just for the sake of this. So it's pre-populated what I had in there for my from. But again, remember that little trick. This is nifty. Put your name in quotes, put the email in the brackets so it shows us it's from this person. It would work the same under stock orders. Say test number 2. Okay. And again, preview reports from here. You can download them. Super nifty. Add as many reports as you need. As soon as you set up that schedule, so we'll do it monthly this time. We're going to, sure, it's set to do it automatically on the 19th this time. So if it'll start to show if it's going to run today. So soon, if this is the case, if you set up your automation in a way that it should execute right away, as soon as you create this, it'll take you to that landing page and it says sending soon. And you'll want to make sure you refresh to see the results because you might say, hey, what the heck's going on? If this is set to go in the future, if this is going to go on the 20th, nothing's going to run right now. Let's say, oh yeah, I'm going to run it on the 22nd of each period. Testing. And CC. All right. When we put that in, we create it. So now notice it's here, it's empty. Past emails, you don't even see that sending soon badge because it's not going to run until the 22nd. But if I went back to edit automation, now that enabled button appears, it enables as soon as you create it, no matter what. And then whenever you come back to this automation, you can then choose if it should be enabled or disabled, whether you click back into that specific automation and you adjust the toggle, or if you're in automations, you could do it as a bulk action. Select, use the bulk actions and disable, enable as you prefer, or remove, no problem. And if I were to adjust the timing on this automation so that it actually does go on the 19th of every month, today meets that criteria. This has got to run today. So if I save it, notice it starts thinking right away in the bottom left, sending soon. You might say to yourself, where is it? Where is it? That's why we're thinking, I don't know if we're going to do an automatic refresh or what the solution here will look like yet. Just want you to keep this in mind. You'll want to, when you see that, trust it's going, it's thinking, it's cooking. Once you refresh, bam, there it is. It ran January 19th. We're doing it on a monthly basis. It'll run here. Here's the details, etc. Just something to keep in mind when you're going through and trying to do some troubleshooting. You just want to triple check anything. Go to that history icon because the logs are certainly organized effectively here to help kind of trace that path. All right. What other, any other questions?
Yes, we did have a question from Tim. He said, if we need 4 replenishment reports run, but each one is broken out by vendor, is there a way to send one email with 4 attachments, or will it be 4 separate emails? So that's going to be one email. You can attach multiple replenishment reports within a single email. So that's totally up to you, however you'd like to configure that.
Yeah, so you could add multiple replenishment reports with various filters, right? You could have one that has this vendor, We could have another that has different vendor and so on. So it's no issue. It'll be one email with multiple attachments to it. No issue there.
Awesome. And then the last question, and I think we need to wrap up. James was asking about timing of the reports. So we pick up on your time zone for each person or for each account. And then we're starting the sync roughly around 2 a.m. local time by default. So the idea is to wrap that up by the time you're starting your workday so you have fresh data. So you can always reference the sync in the lower left corner. You'll see how long ago your last sync finished or roughly what time your last sync finished. And then, yeah, just as Basil is showing there, the sync will show the last time.
You'll see it here typically, but this is a test account, so just it runs differently, but it'll say last updated, etc. So just something you can take a look at.
Sorry, we did have a couple of questions. Ali is asking, what's the max number of automations we can do? I don't know that we have a max. Do you know?
I don't think there's a maximum right now. Let's say
Let's
1
see.
billion. You let us know if you've run too many and are running into an issue. In general, anytime if you're running into problems, something's not working as it should, it can be the case with new features. We do as much testing as we can. Ping us, let us know, send a screenshot or recording. That's always helpful. And again, I would definitely advise checking out our scheduled email or email and automate reports article just to help refresh on what we talked about here with this process.
Awesome. And then Tom has one more question saying further to timing if we want to run for the last month and we would need to schedule to run on the 1st and receive it on the morning of the 2nd. You're going to be fine to schedule it for the 1st, if I'm understanding this right, because that's going to run at 2 a.m. on the 1st, grabbing information for all of the prior month and sending to you that day. So that should work fine.
Yeah, you just want to set up your filters and such. I mean, you might say,
yeah,
look at yesterday, but run the report on the 2nd of the month, right? Something like that.
So we hope that this is helpful. Really love hearing your feedback about this. And thanks again for joining us today.